Hello, guys, and welcome. We're here with a panel, getting ready for the South American DPC, the Winter Tour, to kick off. We're here in Div 1, of course. Very excited to watch this matchup. We're going to get Hokori versus NoPing. Certainly a bit more of a, I don't know if fair is the right word, but more closer matchup than we saw yesterday, because Thunder Predator would... People are expecting them to be top two. They're one of the best teams. Certainly, them and Beast Coast probably stand above the rest. But Hokori and NoPing are two very interesting teams for this season, particularly NoPing, as they completely revamped their squad. We'll talk about this. Of course, I have two panelists with me. It's Bowie and Kips.
Hello.
All right.
Yeah, so I mean...
I'm gonna pour. Wait, no. I want to do this first. I want to pour water on the fire pour fuel on the fire because I know, Bowie, that you are very heavily set on your Brazilian brethren, right? For this,
it is not about them being Brazilian. All right, it's about
yes.
It is not about them being Brazilian. I think when you look at what NoPing and Hokori did recently, right? NoPing, they just won the Fallen Cup a couple of days ago. I think they've been playing for longer. Like, this roster has been made a little bit earlier than Hokori has. So I just feel like they might have more synergy right now. Hokori, the only player left from the old Hokori is El Misho, if I'm not mistaken. So
No.
I think they... No? I mean, Mr. Jeans played for Hokori.
El Misho, Gardic, and Vitali are the three guys left from the old roster.
But that was not the roster that played for the qualifiers of TI, though, right? Because they had Analog in... maybe Lumiere? Okay, yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, they changed the mid and the carry. You're completely right about that. But like the other three are staying, which to me is the strength of Hokori. But I'll talk about this in a second. Kips, you were saying the stats also favored NoPing before I make my passionate speech.
They do. I mean, not just if you look at the experience of the players, but also at who they've played recently. I do want to say, though, that there is a snag here for... the side of NoPing, where they did really struggle to get past our way, which is definitely a tier 2 team for now. I have to see if they'll make their way up, of course. But in general, for Hokori, I'm especially worried about their confidence. I do want to know, they have the wild card matchup, right? Because they have Mr. Jeans on board, and I have been told about this man.
I mean,
Mr. Jeans is a meme. I don't know what else to say about him. The guy, probably one of the nicest people you'll meet, to be honest. Like, every interview with him, he comes off super humble, but he is a bit crazy as like a person, as a player. I remember there was one interview where we had, it was with you guys, Bowie, the Sayori podcast, remember? And Mr. Jeans had just kicked off his team. And I can share this now. I asked him about this. And he was just kicked off his team. And Sayori was like, wow, we should really get him to interview, And Mr. James was cool with it. But, Sayori wanted me to ask him if he was okay with asking him about these things. And Mr. James goes, of course it's okay. I'm terrible. They kicked me because I'm the worst player on that team. That's why I'm not there. I deserve to not be on that team. I'm like, okay, Mr. James, like, calm down, dude. Like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. But he had this rant. It was... crazy.
Yeah, he said something like he was unstable, and I thought it was so like thoughtful in a way, because I think like as a pro player, especially when you reach like higher MMR and you start playing for these teams, people can get very like they need to be very confident about themselves, and sometimes I think that kind of makes them harder to improve as they go forward. So I think, looking forward for Mr. Jeans, I think he has the right mentality. Like, sometimes saying stuff like that, even though it might hurt or it might feel like self-deprecating, I think he helps you improve at the end of the day, Yeah. Not saying he was terrible. I'm just saying that, like, you have to be very, I think, prone to looking at your own performance and always never think that you're perfect,
It's a very forward mentality. I know you saw a lot of that, Kips, with EU players. They're very much like this as well. Some of the more like blunt, they'll just admit like, no, I played badly. And they're pretty okay with admitting that even in interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this weird dynamic that you have to hold within yourself, right? You're honest enough to look at yourself to see where you can improve. But on the other hand, you need to have this certain sense of almost ego in a way that says, all right, but I will be good enough next time. And some players can't. And if they can't hold that, and I've worked with a bunch of those people, it gets very hard to drive them to actually, for example, shot call for their teams and take initiative for their teams, because you still inherently believe that what you're doing right now is the best thing you could be doing.
Yep.
It's so rough. Go on, sorry.
Go ahead, Bowie, please. You were going to say something.
No, I think it's such a weird balance, especially in Dota. I mean, as a player by yourself, it's already really hard. But if you're shot calling, as Skip said, as a captain, it becomes really hard. Obviously, Mr. Jeans was not the captain of his team, and I do think he is a very talented player. So I hope we can see him, grow a lot in this season of the DPC.
I would like to say it about Hokori in general. They picked up Mr. Jeans. Actually, I'd played with him before, and they actually had played with another mid laner who I'm also a big fan of, which is Analog, which is now a NoPing. Actually, I think Analog, if you allow me, before I will destroy his team and tear them apart, I want to say that I think he's super talented. I think he's like actually one of the top rising mid laners in Brazil and the kind of new blood that Brazil needs. He's very high skilled, but he also has that mentality that you describe of Mr. Jeans. Like he really is thoughtful about himself. He tries to improve himself a lot, and he is very hungry, which is something that I've noticed from a lot of the new Brazilian players like Hiko as well. And I think that's very good. Like that's the mentality I want.
I've been saying that about him for a couple of years, just kind of laid out there. This guy,
that's true.
This guy's really good, and I think him and RDO, even though they played for the Hokori, that transition time between TI and now, they also played together for a while. They're very good friends. So when you look at the NoPing team, yes, they actually revamped their whole squad, but most of those players, I guess with the exception of Monster, were friends or have played together in the past. So I do feel like they have a lot of synergy between themselves, even though this is a new team, I guess you could say.
And I want to vouch for you, Bowie, because I remember watching Bowie on panels when he was casting Motoka, which is what the team that Analog kind of started with, and like that iteration. Yeah. It was a team that was a motorcycle, and they had a lot of iterations of just meme names. It was very weird. And Analog, like Bowie went, and I remember him casting goes, "This is the one standout player from this team." There was more, right? But like he really, really concentrated on Analog, so he is not lying when he said he vouched for him from the very get go. And I also was listening to Bowie as a Hispanic. I'm like, he just a Brazilian. This is why he likes him. That's not true. But he was right. He was right. And I watched Analog further, and I yield the ground there, Bowie. You were completely right. You actually saw his raw talent from the get-go. So a very good call there, Bowie.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was actually like looking at some old logs. I was watching an old stream, and apparently Analog was 3K MMR 4 years ago, and he actually bought this like super weird how to get more MMR course from Baga, which is kind of like an old school Dota player. Yeah. And I was like looking at that and like, Jesus Christ, this guy got more MMR in 3 years than I have in my life. And like, how is this possible? He's a super driven guy. He's awesome. But enough of Analog. This is, NoPing versus Hokori. I think these guys are super talented. As you said, they have 3 players that were already together in the past. I do feel like the core matchup though is gonna be rough for. It's gonna be rough for them. Did my camera just die, by the way?
Yes, it did. Oh, so if you can fix that, Bowie,
I will.
We'll continue. Meanwhile, since Bowie left, I get to bash his players. No. The reality is that let me give you some feedback about Hokori or some ideas. Because I know Kip's like you're starting to learn about the region, right? You look at Hokori and like, okay, Red Dragon, cool guys, but here was a storyline that was set up about them last DPC, right? Which even if you studied them, you might have not watched. Which is they had an incredible carry. Their carry is now an infamous. You watched them yesterday. Was Lumiere. Not that impressive, to be honest. Yesterday, I think we would both agree that it was okay, but not like wow, But Hokori was playing with him the whole last season. Hey, Bowie, back for the insults. Hokori was playing with him the whole last season, and everyone's didn't know where these guys were coming from. Like they actually came from like a couple of these like joke stacks that they made for back when the close qualifiers were up. I forgot the name. There was one with a devil logo. I forgot the name, but like it was. Okay, Bowie's struggling. There was a couple of joke stacks here, like that didn't really matter, and they started taking Dota seriously because DPC gave an opportunity. And everyone's just calling Hokori and being like, "Yeah, it's a team, but like, what are they going to accomplish?" Well, a lot actually. And Lumiere seemed to be unstoppable. He was like the carry of the season. Like he's the new guy. He's going to be the new Hector. He's looking incredible. Season ends and they poach him. And you go and look at Hokori and you look, okay, they're dead. Like they lost their best player. This is gone. But see, I have had the pleasure of casting these guys, and I'm not saying this only because their supporter pack has my voice lines, but also because I've been casting these guys a lot in a lot of amateur leagues. Because I will volunteer and I'll cast a bunch of amateur leagues in Spanish for free to help with the scene. And Hokori participates in all these leagues, which I think is illegal, by the way, because they just steal from amateur teams and they should not be there. But anyway. And I watch them, and I keep looking at and being amazed by how good of a team they are. Like Gardic, Vitali, and El Misho are so good that I don't think it matters who their carry is. I look at old replays with a different perspective, and I'm realizing it's not Lumiere. It's these guys making the space, making the calls, and drafting like really well. They're actually one of the best teams I've seen in terms of drafting in the DPC. They have a really high understanding of the game, and I'm always so impressed by these three guys. I actually thought they were best with Analog, if I'm honest with you. I think he's a bit above Mr. James, but I still believe that this three core, it might be some of the best new talent you get in the DPC. And I'm such a big fan. The only reason why I'm happy casting any sort of amateur tournaments is when I get these guys. And I get to watch like the best Dota against a tier 5 team, which is abuse, but still.
No, I kind of have to agree, because that is one storyline that, I mean, we were talking about Lumiere, how he came from Division 2 and now he's playing in one of the best teams of Division 1. Gardic is the same thing. And even when he was in Division 2, I think he was probably one of the best 5s in South America, definitely from Peru. And this guy is really good. Like, I think if, obviously, KJ, he's a TI player, he was there. But I think Gardic is at his level, if not even better. Is really good, not only play-wise, but as you said, draft-wise and I guess macro-wise.
Because, like, I agree. KJ is amazing. I'm a big fan of King Jungles, but I actually always saw King Jungles more of a player. And I saw his drafts, and I saw his shot calling, and it's good. And then you can see him improve as he goes to more international event like TI, right? You can actually see a drastic improvement in the recent leagues he's been playing because he learned so much at TI. But Gardic, I just don't understand where he gets his knowledge from. He can't speak English, so he's not talking to anyone outside of SA. He doesn't get to go to an international tournaments yet, and he's drafting, like, some of his drafts are like tier 1 level drafts. It's very impressive. Even though he then loses the game, he doesn't play that well, but it doesn't matter. That's something that I always like seeing about Hokori. And something that always impresses me about them is particularly that a lot of Div 2 teams, even though their drafts might be good, where they fail is at drafting theory, right? Like some basic things, what do you pick up as your 4th pick, right? Like, do you pick up your win condition as 4th pick if your 1st pick, or do you pick up as like 8th pick if your 2nd pick? That kind of stuff. Basic stuff like that anyone who watches a lot of Pro Dota understands, but a lot of Div 2 teams don't really execute. And he does all of them. Like, he does every single one of them. It's actually impressive watching him draft. I don't know where he gets that knowledge from. So that's what I always vouch for Hokori for. I think it's really great to see a player do this at this level.
I mean, I think the way he gets the knowledge is how all of Peruvian players, because like I might be wrong, but I just get the feeling that Peruvian players pub way more than Brazilian players, or
They
maybe
do.
like any other country, I say. So I think, I mean, in a way, it's feeling, but drafting is also theory. So things kind of grow when you start. Okay, when I do this, we do very well and we win. So all right, I'll do this again. And I think just by feel end up learning a lot of these nuances of drafting. Because it is a very secretive art, I guess. No one kind of teaches that. And if you're not speaking with the European players, Chinese players, how do you, actually get an understanding of it? It's really hard.
And
One of
even
the
then, they often
downfalls
don't
of
share.
our region. Sorry, Kips?
Yeah, Kips.
Even then, they often don't share, right? It's interesting the way I'm hearing this right now. This parallel would have looked a lot better before TI, but now Team Spirit has won. It's kind of improbable, but they sound a lot like Team Spirit was in the previous 2 years, where they grab a bunch of people together who just have this really nice chemistry, and they just build a base, and they get their own ideas, and they do this according to pubs and not according to like the lore that has dribbled down from the high tiers of captaincy throughout the years. They're reinventing the wheel, you could say, or maybe they're leaving a bunch of unneeded parts off. And that might lead to a very slick result. And what I'm hearing here sounds like a very healthy, constructive team environment.
Yeah, I mean, when you were trying to, because I know you concentrate on these concepts a lot, right? Like teaching pros the basics, which might seem crazy, but it's something that Kips. I know you talked to me about it. Like a lot of them have holes in their knowledge that you were trying to fix for them, right? So how was it did you ever teach draft theory to them and stuff like that? Like, did you ever try to teach them how like pro teams, like top teams draft, or was that not something you dealt with?
Yeah, I did, and it's kind of hard. because a lot of teams assume that what the top team drafts is just the very best thing that they could do at that possible moment, instead of them actually being making compromises and picking specifically for their players, etc. Whereas a lot of players, especially young up and comers, are like, no, I need to have this huge hero pool so that my team can draft everything. Like more. Now, a lot of these top teams have flavors, and they choose that deliberately, and then they work towards that. And I think OG is the biggest one of all time, where they went from like illusion carries and double save to this eventually with Seb and Notel, this sort of hyper aggressive pressure kind of style, where every time they were making decisions based on what their players did best. And not even so much on the meta or on like what is the very best thing to do right now. And that was hard because you're shattering illusions about these top players just being so much better than you, and instead it's like, no, they make better decisions than you, and not everybody liked to hear that.
What? How did you deal with it? Like, were there just some players that had the right mentality to grow, and that's it, like a growth mindset there?
Yeah, definitely. But it's here we actually kind of circle back to the previous thing where a growth mindset sometimes makes people insecure because they feel like they're not actually doing it right in the moment, and are going to have to execute again this week. They're going to have to execute again, in half an hour, and you have to build up the confidence while also making very clear to them that they're still on a road towards improvement. Now, that dynamic was one of the hardest I found to navigate. Like, telling them enough about the extra possibilities to encourage them instead of opening up the entire book and then being like, oh Lord, I don't understand anything. I don't think I want it to be this way. Let me just go back to my pubs and queue 12 times a day because that is the way I've done it so far.
Right. And
That's
if we can
kinda-
circle. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, boy, please.
Yeah, I mean, you can finish your thought. I just wanted to go back to like the beginning of this conversation where you're talking about like how this knowledge trickles down for the big teams. And I was listening Sindring talk about how like at the end of every TI, the way you build a team is usually based on like what worked for the team that won. And there was definitely, I think, up to TI4, this mentality of like always just picking this super old guard, kind of proven players, and just trying to make the star team work around them. I think Team DK was probably the epitome of that, and didn't really work. And how like with the team spirit that we're talking about, OG just get 5 total. I mean, not random players, but not accomplished players by any means, with only their coach being their 5, their old coach. And I find that really interesting how like we get totally biased by something that not necessarily is the best, but it's just what works and what we can kind of work off of, right?
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting.
No, I love that you make that point, because there's something I try to teach my viewers whenever I do replay analysis of my stream and stuff. I get a lot of viewers who I intentionally insult, and they're the ones that only concentrate on results. And I really hate that, because like they'll go and say like, I was trying to talk about TR, for example. A lot of people were throwing a lot of flack. I think Reddit did the same thing to SG, for example. I was like, but did you see the games? It's not just about them getting 1-2 or 2-0 or whatever. Like the games are actually kind of close. That's not. The difference between winning and losing is binary at the end of the day, and it doesn't really express the complexity of Dota as a game. Yeah. And I think people are starting to realize that much more. When I see new talents, when I see Hokori, I don't care if they're winning or losing. I'm seeing their draft, I'm seeing their plays, and I go, this is amazing. I remember when I was actually calling out, telling people, dude, like Infamous, now East Coast, was going to do really well at TI. My reasoning was, I've been casting these guys through close qualifiers before, and they're doing things that I've never seen in SA. Something as simple as controlling high ground, which I know sounds really basic now. Back then in SA was like unheard of. Nobody would ever ward the high ground and play around the ward. That was like, nah, we fight wherever we fight. And then they were doing that, and they had a high understanding of the game. And I remember seeing them and thinking, these guys are going to go far, not just because they qualified, but because I can tell they're playing better. And I'm really happy that mentality is changing for people as well. That they're valuing the quality of Dota more than win-loss. That's not what Dota is about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complex thing that at the end of the day, you kind of quantify with like win or loss. And yeah, I agree. It's much more than that. And you have to be watching to be able to kind of grasp it, right? Or else it's really just a number at the end of the day.
Do you, Bowie, because you're from the scene particularly, do you feel particularly happy that you got to talk about two teams that actually have like they're not even the top teams in this league, and we're already talking like singing their praises and talking about the level of the region. I can tell myself that SA is just growing everywhere, not just in the top teams, but some in the middle teams. That's where I think the real growth is we're seeing in SA. Is that something that makes you happy, honestly, for Brazilian
No, I mean,
teams?
it makes me super happy because you know what? Like at the end of the day, I mean, if you look at the past TI, right, you're gonna say that Bisco's got whatever place it was, and even that was not like amazing. So I don't think SA should have more slots. But when you actually look at the middle of the pack, not like the actual best results worldwide, but the middle of the pack has grown so much, and I think it's just a question of time until we see SA being like you can see that there's like an influx of players and just like a lot of interest from these guys. This second division rank 800 guys that suddenly are now ranked 50, and because they actually had the incentive, are just like incredibly better than they were, like unbelievably better than they were 6 months ago. So it is coming. You know, it's just a question of time, honestly.
Well, guys, we have a draft in front of us. So we talked a lot of hypotheticals, a lot of nice SeekNStrike thoughts, but I would like to see the draft itself so we can talk about some actual Dota. So we're getting the draft ready for you guys. I lied. I spoke too soon. I'm so sorry.
Why do you do that, Avo?
I'm so sorry, guys. I was too excited. I wanted to see heroes, you know? I missed Dota. It's been 50 minutes, which, by the way, I would like to remind viewers that are angry and going, caster start game. First of all, it's Trent's fault. And second of all, 4D is the organizer for this tournament. We are not the organizer, so we are at their mercy. So any complaints, it's at 4D Esports on their Twitter. Feel free to send them a DM. Adrian, I'm so sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, Trent's Twitter is at Trent. I'm kidding. Please don't.
Doxing the poor
Trent.
guy. Trent's address is 155 Ontario. No, we have a game in front of us. We're going to get into the draft any second now, so do not worry. But I can promise you we're going to see some exciting picks already. Before we get into the draft, Kips, you've heard. I don't care about Bowie's opinion right now. Kips, you've heard this discussion. Are you swayed at all for Hokori, or are you still thinking that NoPing is looking stronger here?
I think NoPing's looking stronger, but now I am really rooting for Hokori to at least show me like that understanding of the concepts. Okay. So if they do their positioning right, if they make their map plays right, then I'm going to be rooting them in the future.
Nice. That's I'll take that. That's my biggest sway. So we have a draft now. You guys can check out the draft in front of you. And I'll start with you, Bowie, here. The strong start by NoPing. Io Luna. What a strong opener for your draft, dude.
Yeah, that's really strong. It's a stable carry. I mean, because they do not have last pick in either phase, right? That's the problem that you get with first pick. I think this is really good. You just secure your win condition very early, and then you just make use of that double pick in the second phase to try and get something that works for you. I really like that type of opening when you have first pick. On that other side, though, sorry, Kips. Sorry.
No, I think this always really lends itself to mid-game pushing lineups when you have the two picks in the second phase where you can really wreck the core of their draft if you do it carefully. And of course, they'll eventually get the best pick over on the very last one. And usually that's then, you know, the be-all to end-all in the end game. But up until that point, you have a window for yourself. And between Io and Luna, you can absolutely demolish a game if the enemy's mid-game does not go to plan.
You guys know
what
I want to see?
Response? Sorry?
There's something that I saw in an Infamous versus Unknown. No. I actually forgot. It was an offlane Tusk with Snapfire offlane.
That's disgusting.
I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Offlane Tusk
Snapfire 4.
with Snapfire 4. Yeah. Okay, they're going to go Pango. So
But
Dream is dead. But it's okay.
Hey, but not quite that crazy though, because like the idea kind of similar, right? Swashbuckle doesn't actually trigger the tag team damage, but it does trigger the slow as well. So you do have a bit of a combo here, and both Pango and Tusk can play 3-4. And offlane Tusk is actually super popular in South America for whatever reason. Papita did it a while ago, and everyone's like, actually, this is great.
Yeah, like I until Necronomicon was alive, I thought it was a really good idea. I don't think it's that good, but they made it look amazing. So yeah. I would be down to trying it.
Okay. What do you think of this answer though? Like Disruptor obviously Io Luna counter, but then Tusk Pango not the most Io counters. What do you think this is headed? What is the logic behind this?
It's that mid-game brawl, right?
Okay.
Yeah, they have good flex here because as we were talking about, Tusk could be offlane, but Pango could be 5, Disruptor could be 4. So you have very interesting lanes that you can kind of swap in between. But they just went full on. This is our lane. Sand King Mirana is going to be really tough to lane against. So I think they have to play this Tusk as a 5. I think having the save for the arrow, Burrow Strike arrow could be interesting. We'll see what they do.
Is there a chance here? I mean, whenever they pick Sand King, my immediate thought is let's abuse that lane, right? We actually saw a game today in EU where they just picked Troll. Team Spirit picked Troll against Sand King. It's like, let's abuse that lane. Because level 1 to 3 Sand King is honestly god-awful in lane. Can we pick up Hero? Does that suit Hokori's lineup? A carry that can take advantage of that weakness for Sand King?
I think Troy is a good
I think
matchup
so.
versus Luna. I think, it gives them really good Roche because they have Tusk Pangolier, so that's awesome. You get good high ground siege, and it's a decent lane. I wouldn't mind it.
PA.
Bit more risky here though. Like if you get comboed by the Sand King Mirana, you are absolutely going to die. And that continues for a while longer into this game. Of course, you are eventually going to outcarry the Luna, at least on a man fight perspective. But this is IO Luna. They're at the very least going to be able to focus down that IO though.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that is true.
Go on. What were you gonna say? Bro?
I don't know. I think it's a bold choice, as Kip said, but I think unless NoPing plays this flawlessly, it feels like in these SA games they always go a little bit late, even to this day. So I kind of favor PA in general. Her late game is really, really good. She got a lot of buffs in the recent patches, and there's a reason this is the most picked carry in High pubs. A lot of players are just trying out, seeing how stable and good. Battle Fury got buffed, PA got buffed, so I don't mind this. They have really good Roche. They have really good team fight, low cooldowns. With the exception, I guess, of the Rolling Thunder. It's pretty interesting.
I'd actually like here. I know El Misho always plays the Tusk, right? But I'd actually like Tusk with a PA lane because that I think would abuse the Sand King so much. Then running I don't care what goes with the Pango because he's gonna lose that lane anyway. So putting the Tusk with a PA might actually have some sort of combo with Stifling Dagger. You can actually crit off tag team damage, so you might be able to kill someone the coup de grace, which is pretty impressive. I would like to see that abused by Hokori if they can muster it.
Yeah. The problem with PA is that if your lane gets trashed, she's like anti-mage, You're kind of forced into either farming Battle Fury BKB for 10 minutes or going Echo Saber and looking very underwhelming. So it's really about how well NoPing can play this lane. If they don't trash the PA, then I'll definitely be scared for NoPing in the mid to late game.
And I'd also be concerned about downgrading this Tusk to a pos 5 because this Pangolier is going to need somebody to work with in the mid game, and I'm not sure if a pos 4 disruptor can really do that for him, unless NoPing go like severely on the aggressive, or if they pick some kind of spirit hero where they can always drop the static storm on top of him, that sort of thing.
Fair enough.
All right, I have a bet I want to make with you guys before we see the last picks. How many times are we going to see Sand King dodging Glimpse with Burrow Strike? I'll go with 2 times.
What is this bet? 5?
2 times. 2 times.
2 times?
Lower.
Yeah.
0? I guess 4? I'll say 4. I think it's going to dodge it a fair amount of times.
All right. Yips.
Oh. I just say lower. That's 1 or 0. It doesn't matter. But you gotta bet close to it, right? 4 is actually bad because if it's 3 times, you're going to have to split. You always pick 3.
That's true. That's true. Actually, Kips is
so
she's
smart,
not.
dude.
It's not about being
she's
good at
another
donuts, it's
level.
about being good at betting. Yeah, exactly.
Optimize.
All right, I love this Tiny. It's an analog classic. They have very squishy heroes on the side of Hokori. Snowball save doesn't really help against burst damage in general. Let's see what lane they can pick for Hokori to maybe abuse this Tiny. But generally speaking, I feel like they banned everything that is really scary. There's only Viper, right? Then you're playing Viper.
Oh, but it's Mr. Jeans though, so I think he's okay with that.
Yep.
It's
his favorite hero.
The other thing I really like about this Tiny is that sometimes you see these lineups where you only have like an IO Luna or an IO Gyro, and that is the only hero that the IO can actually combo with. But with the Tiny, we're going to see both of these combinations. So we're going to see the IO go aggressive with the Tiny in the early game, which is a big boost for him. And then whenever he doesn't have anything to do, the Luna will be farming fast.
And that's a Razor pickup instead of the Viper. Mr. Jeans just wants to make your life hell. It doesn't really matter what hero he picks for that. And in this case, Razor will actually have a bit more mid-game utility because you didn't like the Viper, I think, with just reason. However, Razor, good scaling against Luna for the most part. Not. It's a hard hero to disengage a static link from, and really good lane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a decent choice. You know, Tiny does have some workarounds around Razor because you can toss him away from the static link. He does have a lot of base damage anyways. But generally speaking, it is a good pick. I think it just gives them a lot of mid-game power spikes that buys time for Yuma to become this massive PA that will eventually carry this game if he goes late enough. But I still think I just like NoPing's draft for biased reasons, I guess.
At least he admits it. What about you, Kips?
I do really enjoy the Hokori draft. I am a bit worried that this Razor doesn't win his lane hard enough before the BKB. He's going to get chain stunned and bursted, and then the mid game might get quite hard for Hokori. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. They have a ton of brawl, and I like that in an upstart team that's looking to upset a more dominant foe here.
Yep. Also, if I recall it in D2 Hustlers, I actually recall a couple of good performances by Yuma in his PA. So I am actually kind of slaying, no bias whatsoever, Boy, unlike you. I'm completely neutral. I am siding slightly with Hokori here.
I just can't win this because I remember last DPC, every time I went against PA, it would crush games. And every time I would go against it, it would actually win. So there's nothing I can do. I'll just go with my Brazilian guys for this game one. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, guys. And to cast this wonderful game, we have a pair of casters that we're happy to unveil. It's once again going to be SeekNStrike, but joining in this time is going to be Lacoste. Take it away.
Yes, thank you very much, Avo. Shout out to Lacoste for joining us at the, I think, very late hours over from Europe where he's currently staying. But we're going to have a very, very exciting series here to keep you awake. It's going to be RDO, one of the better farmers in the South American region, heading up against Yuma's Phantom Assassin. What do you think about the core-to-core, generally speaking, as that's where the panel kind of left us off?
I mean, if we're talking about, first of all, it's nice to be here, you know, just dive a bit deeper into South American scene, considering how much scene has grown over the years. It's just, you know, a good feeling, see how much it develops. But the core to core, this is kind of a double core against the Luna core. I want to see what Tiny's going to build in this game. It's a good Tiny game overall to start with, but you're playing into like PA and also Razor. Razor's just going to cripple you with the static link. You're going to be the target. Like eventually you're probably going to have a Pike, maybe, or someone will buy a 4-staff. Tiny can disrupt the combo, the static link with the toss. Other than that, looking at the both drafts, I'm kind of favoring NoPing's draft because they have like ton of damage. They have ways to play extremely fast, ton of magical damage burst. I was expecting something else in the mid lane. The first thing that came to my mind, I'm talking a lot, I know, but I just have to say it, you know, Timbersaw looked really good because he like comes online relatively quickly, and all they got is pretty much magic damage early on until Luna and Tiny gets their items, and it would be like really good in the lane against Tiny.
Okay, I see that. I see where you're coming from on that. I see. What I was curious about was NoPing. To me, they've got some pretty strong side lanes, right? Sang King Morana eventually has got a lot of kill potential. Tiny, of course, his lane is a bit more difficult thanks to this last pick Razor. But the bottom lane, Luna and Wisp, it's just hard to beat a Wisp lane, especially paired with a Luna, one of the better IG carries.
I think Luna, in general, and right now in this patch, has like grown so much. It's very hard to beat. Like, she's strong laner. Io does a ton of damage with the Lunar Blessing. Io has been like nerfed. I feel like in last 3 years, this is the, I'd say, most balanced we've seen Io, but still feels very hard to beat. Right now, Hokori, they're starting with like a potential tri lane. They want to get a kill, but the core, he scouted him out. I got confused for a second at Mirana. Looking at Mirana and Disruptor, I thought Disruptor was Mirana for some reason.
Yeah, you know what it is? I think it's that tail. That's I forget what the mount is from Mirana, what its name is. But yeah, it looks very similar to whatever Disruptor's mount is called as well. And already they're going to be looking to bully this Mirana. She did take arrow level 1. It was scouted, so they know that there's no leap. Looking for a quick early kill. They might actually have her here. One more auto attack needed. A little arrow there, and Misho will not be able to chase for that first blood. But lots of space here for Yuma in this first wave.
It's very aggressive lane on the top. They have Blightstone already on Phantom Assassin, plus a tag team and a dagger. That's a lot of slow arrow. Not available yet, unfortunately for them.
And they're going to look to turn right away. End up throwing the dagger towards Monster, though, just allowing Misha to not take too much damage on the way back out. Yeah, but a very, very aggressive lane, especially kind of taking advantage of this period where the Mirana is going to be a little bit more vulnerable without the leap, where there's going to be no sandstorm. You know, you don't need to buy a ton of detection in this lane, but
yes,
now this lane does get a bit more harder.
It's going to be... I don't think this lane is playable anymore, considering how good NoPing played. Like, they pushed the wave in, now they got the level 2, so whoever gets caught, like, in general... I would say, in theory, Tusk works well because, of course, you have a tag team. Blink Strike gives you that attack speed, so that means more damage. It's not going to be easy. Like, he's still keeping a point in Snowball. Mirana's going to harass them quite a lot, and Sanking has a point in Caustic, so that means it's going to be just a free wave. Like, every single time they get close, they kill the creep wave. Mirana, there's also big... pool available, so Mirana can do that. And we also missed the first blood, of course. Probably viewers didn't miss it because we have some dope observers, but I've missed it.
Yeah, he did catch it. It was just the Disruptor kind of getting harassed. And that's actually something I was a little bit surprised by, because Avo suggested that they do try and take advantage of this tag team, you know, PA dagger lane.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it is a double melee lane versus a Sand King,
exactly.
Right? It does allow him to go for this caustic finale, so...
Putting Disruptor on the top would be much better. Your bottom lane would be weaker, but you already fed the first blood, and that kind of momentum that you wanted to have with the Pangolier plus Disruptor means a lot of harassment. Pango's doing a good job in terms of CSing. Like, it's very hard to CS against Luna plus Io, but still, he's level 3. He's going for a bottle, which I really like, which will allow him to spam the shield crash.
Yeah, just keep up all the... as much harass as he can. Mid lane is kind of breaking out to be this kind of, you know, I push the wave massively, you push the wave back, just messing with equilibrium as Tiny's actually going to rotate away and steal that first bounty rune.
He's also scouting. There is a stack already. They have good heroes to actually steal the stacks. Dio.
Misha. Yeah, he's finally going to go down. Even the Hellbear Smasher helping out a little bit. Yuma had to tank that damage. A nice Blink Strike up to the high ground, and the neutrals aren't going to have enough damage there at 200 to zero him. So a nice little bit of sparring there as it finally does pop off at the top lane.
Dio gets the last hit. Will have enough to buy Urn of Shadows. Ideally, you would want to have that before the kill, but we'll buy it. So if they get another kill, that's extra approximately 200 damage. Mid lane, I don't think Tiny should die. Usually when Razor plays against a melee hero struggles. But Tiny can easily just toss or use Avalanche, run away from Static Link, decided to go for an earlier Boots of Speed, which is kind of a must. A bit worried for Hokori, because they're losing both side lanes. Tiny's doing really well. I mean, he can't beat Razor, of course, but, you know, relatively well, considering the situation that he's in.
Yeah. Yeah, the Tiny as well being off to a fast start. You know, like they said during the panel, lots of heroes that you can pretty easily 100 to 0, especially these cores. Razor usually depends a bit on his move speed and the fact that he can leech your damage, but Tiny with a fast blink from Shadows can kind of just 100 to 0 him, especially if there's going to be a Sand King to follow up with another stun and even Epicenter. So
That's
lots of magic burst.
Panel talked about. They said it's a good Tiny game. They have a lot of low HP heroes that can be bursted, especially PA. Like PA, if she doesn't do well in the lane, she's doing relatively okay, 25 CS, so not too bad, level 4.5 right now. Still, if she like dies once or twice, it's gonna delay her Battle Fury build. We'll see what she decides to go for. I assume it's gonna be that, but might change her mind because I see Power Treads, and usually you do not want to buy that if you want to go straight Battle Fury. Also, Orb of Corrosion. It's a very expensive item. Like, it's almost 1,000 gold, 925 to be exact. I love to run the numbers.
I mean, yeah, it's a great item in the early game, right? Gives you that HP, the minus armor, the slow, very slot efficient, but yeah, it does come at a cost, of course, to your secondary items. Something actually, I know we've talked about this top lane a lot, but now as it's starting to kind of leave the laning stage, something I was surprised we didn't see get contested, and you brought it up immediately, was this hard camp, because we just saw Monster, I think, farm a triple stack of it for free. Mirana arrows it all the time. Like, that's just so much more money that NoPing is allowed to have.
You gotta block that. Like, you gotta either body block that before they get level 2. But they played so well. NoPing played it well. They pushed out the lane even without Caustic level 1. It was a Burrow Strike. I can understand Hokori aggressive move on Mirana, you know that she's gonna have that arrow. They try to kill her. She used the healing salve immediately, came back, and this is how you kind of lose the lane. Analog on top lane has a haste rune, scouting
Yes,
things
he
out,
does.
going for the courier.
Oh,
Haste
not
still
bad.
available.
That was the full power treads as well for the PA, killed in that courier, so missing a lot of stats. Almost got a second one for free. As he's thinking about going for this dive. Are you too afraid of a counter rotation from a Razor? Does a Razor TP stop a Tiny like this?
Definitely not, because you see haste. This is the best rune that he can get. And someone needs to be mid. Theolicor, very nice rotation on the mid lane. Arrow. There is no catapult wave. Like, Razor's gonna try to push it in. Theo should be fine still. Using a healing salve. Has that leap charge. Knows exactly how far he can go. Breaks the link. Easy peasy.
This is a top tower, though. As NoPing, they have not backed away from this push. Analog's still holding on to this haste rune, so of course he still has kill threat. But most importantly, pretty good siege along with that wagon. They just don't have any way to really clear it, such like a very balanced Mirana who can just throw an arrow at it, for example. But yeah, that's the tier 1 tower already taken down within the first wagon wave.
Razor will need to make some kind of moves early on if he gets a good rune, but he needs to play the side lanes, either with the TP rotation or just walk, because it's going to be very hard to be in the game. Phantom Assassin, like, I can see that. He bought for power treads, wants to adjust his item build right now. Going for Maelstrom, needs something cheaper. Would not be able to get full Battle Fury power treads and Orb of Corrosion in time, which delays your timing. And their timing early on should be strong, considering you have a mid Razor, and Razor needs to make some space.
Yeah, he does. I'm just wondering, Lacoste, what lane does he look to gank? As I think there's going to be Analog just giving him a rundown. Maybe trying to beat him to the regeneration rune, but he's not going to quite make it. Because top lane versus a Sand King, you know, he already naturally has, although it's only Burrow Struck level 2, some kind of way to break the link instantly and maybe even evade you. Bottom lane, Luna has got a Wisp, and mid, well, this Tiny lane hasn't, I think, quite panned out how he's wanted to. He's gotten farmed, but
it's very hard,
he just
right?
hasn't had the kill threat.
Yeah, it's very hard. Right now, they're sitting underneath the ward. KJ going straight for the mech. We had the discussion on the EU panel the other day about, like, just mech or the Holy Locket. Holy Locket sounds nice, but mech, if you hit that big timing on the mech, it's much, much better. El Misho going for some kind of a play. We'll get Ogre. Easy 17. He got it.
Easy.
That means...
yeah, that's a good point, right? Because the mecha gives you all that burst healing super early on. I think, obviously, the Locket's going to scale a lot better late game, but when everyone's raw HP is so low in the early game and you have what is a 400 heal, I think, with Tether, that's like almost half a hero's HP pool instantly restored. I think it's too much value to pass up.
And I like what NoPing is doing right now. They were stacking the camps in the triangle, so the smaller camps, aka big camps, not an ancient camps, it gets taken by Tiny, which they need. They need this Blink Dagger on Tiny to be aggressive while Luna can still be in the triangle, farm the Ancients, and join the fight. Like, Luna, even without a point in Eclipse, can still do so much, considering how much damage Lunar Blessing is. It's plus 25 damage on everyone.
Just paired with a Wisp, but right now, there's going to be the Shards and the Kinetic Field stopping Analog. He's going to get the reload out immediately, however. And Theolicor leaping in will secure that kill with the Star Storm, pardon me. Great reload out. King Jungle's just always in position as that ward's going to be taken down immediately. But Hokori, they're looking to force the issue mid lane here. They're closing in on that Blink Dagger towards the time. They don't
Another haste. Can he get it? Yes, he can.
No, it's denied. Just barely out of reach for him. Vitali, he's going to end up falling there just to the damage that they have. Analog now is taking quite a bit of hurt from the static link, but they don't have the vision. Pardon me. The Dust now is going to scout out the Tiny. Another plasma play. Down he goes. King Jungles, he's not going to have the damage. RDO, he's rotating through. He's got level 3 Lucent Beam, but most importantly, Theolicor having put down that Urn Charge onto the Razor. The Solar Release ticking him down. Strength Treads trying to keep him alive. Oh no, he kills his Courier. Mr. Jeans! Oh, the Courier is too loyal. It ends up dying underneath the tier 2 tower, and a very costly dive out from Hokori.
I'm a bit surprised they decided to make that move. Like, if Luna is keeping 1 point in Eclipse, like, you can just deal so much damage, considering that he also put 3 points in the beam. What a ball, but Tiny, man, he's a giga, Chad. I like what he did. It wasn't, you know, the smartest move, but he sees, like, yo, I know I'll try to burst Razor. Razor also has like some serious amount of HP considering the build that he went for. Like he's sitting at 1600 with strength power treads, tries to burst him, but you know your combo is not the strongest one. In this particular scenario, you want to max out your combo, leave the tree grab at level 1 because your job is not to carry the game. You could transition into a carry role, but Luna is gonna do the heavy lifting. Right
Yeah,
now,
exactly. That's like super basic SA Dota. Like 4 heroes itemized to fight, and then you have a card carry like RDO who just farms the map and eventually just runs everyone down with his net worth.
Mirana almost has a full Spirit Vessel 8 minutes in. God, I hate this cosmetic on Moonlight Shadow. Like, why they're turning... Like, it looks so ugly. I don't know. For some reason, I think like my game is broken whenever she uses ulti.
Yeah, you know, it kind of reminds me of like whenever you're playing Wisp and buy an E-Blade, and then Wisp just kind of disappears whenever you're in ethereal form, right?
Yeah.
It looks very similar. And speaking of someone who's almost like a ghost this game, because I'm just not really feeling the impact, it's Vitali on this offlane Pangolier. Just hasn't really been able to make any moves. I don't think we've even seen a rolling thunder yet.
Non-existent, exactly.
Yeah.
I think in games where like you feel your safe lane didn't do too well, mid lane's doing okay in terms of like network to CS, but you need to feel like the both supports are also not doing a very good, so you need to be a bit more active. He has 3 points in Swashbuckle, 4 points in Shield Crash, which is pretty standard. Might put 1 in the Lucky Shot, but where's that Rolling Thunder? You also got to be careful with how you use the Rolling Thunder and the Ice Shards, because it can mess it up.
Yeah, it's a good point. There's some potential crazy synergy or anti-synergy between the two abilities.
Oh man, lobby some anti-synergy in Dota.
Yeah, yesterday we had a Slark and Faceless Void tag team together, as there's going to be the Blink reveal out from Analog. He's going to pick up the kill onto Gardic. That's the secondary support, right, that we haven't quite mentioned too much. He's been doing a good job dewarding, has the point now in the static field, or the static storm, pardon me. However, Disruptor, quite famously, is one of those supports that you generally don't want to be playing when you're starting to fall behind like this. It's already a 5k net worth lead. Usually you end up glimpsing back enemy heroes, and they just kind of kill you.
Yeah, they need one good fight. You need to use combo. Tiny once again going in. Pango a bit too tanky with the Raindrop and the Orb of Corrosion. Full magic one, can't really take him down. I'd say NoPing, they're in full control of this game. The longer Hokori waits, it's just gonna get uglier for them.
Yeah, definitely. And even El Misho here has not really decided what to itemize into. For a Tusk, I would have thought, Lacoste, that this was going to be a Vessel game for him, given that there's a Wisp, you know, going to be keeping everyone alive. You've got a very tanky Tiny. Is there anything else he could be looking to purchase? Perhaps just a straight-up Blink Dagger?
I think it's just either a Glimmer Cape to, like, be able to survive for yourself with some extra magic resistance, or you can, you know, cast it on your allies. But yeah, the Spirit Vessel, like, no one's buying it. That means the heal coming out from IO still gonna go full. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if they picked I think this one comes down to a draft, because it's very hard to play. They got stomped in the lanes. They really don't have that much comeback potential. And what's important is that they shut down Phantom Assassin. Like, Maelstrom is done. She's sitting at half HP, so they need to be very careful. And this is the big timing for NoPing. They're gonna strike on a mid lane. They're ready to fight. Like, Luna, 4 points in Beam, and also Eclipse. So you gotta be very careful. Mech on IO, Sanking has a Blink Dagger, so double initiation. Ooh, pause.
A little pause. Welcome to SA. I'm surprised we didn't get the pause straight out from the fountain. But there's going to be a DC out from Vitali. And to add on to what kind of makes this scary for me, Lacoste, is you take a look at the item timings that are upcoming for both teams. RDO is about to have a BKB, so he can get relocated pretty deep into these fights and not really have too much to worry about, especially with, you know, the double blink initiation with that burst magic like you're talking about. Razor is still not even that close to his home BKB in the mid lane. He went for this Falcon Blade as a transition item, and has not really been fighting too much with the extra stats it gives them. They just haven't really found the opportunity. Now the fight's coming to them, and it just doesn't feel like they're ready.
I don't think they can take this fight. Like, they take this fight, they lose a tier 1 tower, they lose vision in their triangle, because this is what you're looking for. Like, look how hard they're holding onto triangle right now. 2 sentry wards, 1 observer, and you know once that tier 1 tower falls, you can easily invade the jungle and go for more kills. Right? I don't know who's gonna die on NoPing. You have Sanking sitting at 1600 HP with possibly mech tether heal coming out from Io, and as you mentioned, Seek, BKB about to be done, 200 gold away on Luna. They don't have enough burst damage. Like, there's not enough stuns.
Oh.
Faking
Was
Epi.
scouted. Yeah, they don't even need the Epi for him. Ice shards are placed down, but with that little bit of damage taking him down, they got him with the urn alone.
What they can do is also go inside the pit. They have more than enough damage with Luna. They could force a fight. I like what Luna has in her quick buy. This is the build that I love to see. Just 4 ogre axes.
Unbelievable strength, you know. How can you beat it?
What could you do
Strong.
possibly with 4 ogre axes that you already don't have? Like, you can finish the BKB, you can get SNY.
You can get yeah, this is just a Sange. You can get SNY, you can get Halberd, and you can get an Axe.
And the Echo
That's the
Saber
finishing
that doesn't work, yeah.
And the Echo Saber, absolutely. Passive Echo Saber. It's great for the stats. Absolutely. You can build 5 more Dragon Lances. I wonder, I mean, right now he's actually still... Okay, so he's going to repurchase, right, the Dragon Lance. I always forget about this one. You disassemble the Lance, and then you get another one, just to have that BKB online a bit earlier. But yes, I wonder, actually, if we're going to get to see these other Ogre Axes.
Definitely not.
You just shattered my dreams, Lacoste. But I think actually something that I wanted to say was I think the Roche play might be a little bit of a bait, because if there's one thing Hokori can actually do pretty well, it's fight around kind of an enclosed area like that. You know, you're going to be giving Rolling Thunder a really good opportunity to be used. Static Storm could be very lethal there. Razor in an AoE with Eye of the Storm and no creeps is a lot of damage. So maybe it looks like NoPing are just going to look to secure a little bit more of the map, get up some wards, and then maybe look for Roche. But yeah, it seems like that would be Hokori's kind of only way back into this game is some kind of Miracle Roche fight.
The Spango needs to land like multiple stuns inside the Roche pit. They already lost the outpost. They don't have a tier 1 tower to TP on the mid lane. They can play the bottom part of the map. Problem is, there's still a tower. They did not manage to kill a single tower in this game. And I'd say it's pretty safe for NoPing to go inside the pit. Which they do.
Start it up now. I will say though, BKBs for Hokori, they seem decently strong in this early game. Like you were saying, there's plenty of burst magic early, which makes the PA's game a bit scary. But now that Razor has BKB ready to go, I don't think he's going to quite die as quickly as he has been to Luna. Right-clicks basically alone in these fights. They're going to smoke up and go for it, though. Kind of sensing that they're about to miss their opportunity, but that's not how you want to start it off. He gets off the BKB, at least before the arrow can hit. Ardio's going to fight through this one. Walrus Punch interrupting, and he does get a link off, so there's not a lot of damage for Ardio anymore. Mr. Gene's still alive, fighting through it. Does not get to last much longer, as it looks like they're going to be able to clean up here. Chasing after the Pango up to the high ground, and even getting the full team wipe. That didn't go like how they thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, Tiny just goes in, gets Razor to half HP. Razor forced to use a BKB, uses a static link, but it's still not enough damage. And Sanking with the nice 2-man epic into Burrow Strike just kind of sealed the deal for that fight. No one dies on side of NoPing. Kind of expected in this situation, considering they were like 6k gold ahead before the fight even started.
Yeah, indeed. As I had disconnected a little bit in that last team fight, but luckily we've got the program feed to cast off. Yeah, tough fight for them. Now at top 10k. Aegis on the Luna. BKB still incredibly effective at keeping them alive, and well, especially with a Wisp and Lunar Blessing, you know, Lacoste, what stops them from kind of just deathballing and ending the game in the next 5 minutes?
That's a good question. I don't have the answer. Like, I like to stay positive, but they don't rely on any cooldowns. Another good stun.
What a stun. Yeah, that Burrow Strike, a thing of beauty. So much damage being done, and Misho's still alive, and a pretty good Rolling Thunder, all things considered. But again, there's just no damage here. They did at least force the BKB charge, but they're going to lose their positions 3, 4, and 5. Yuma and Mr. Jeans just unable to dish out enough damage in these team fights.
Hokori, he's being scouted. Arrow.
Ooh, just off the mark. That was a close one, though.
This is the Luna lineup, the classic Luna lineup for you, where they go. It's pretty standard, everything done by the books, I would say. For NoPing, they didn't make too many mistakes. Only 2 kills on the board for Hokori, which kind of says how this game was played out so far.
Oh, and they're even just going to casually walk up to Yuma, find a stun. Epicenter is going to be utilized, and they're going to pick up 2 more kills. Yeah, this one is just, you know, normally when you have the Tusk, it snowballs one way, but it's very much snowballing the other way.
Yeah, exactly. If this was a pub game, someone would type already end or buy a Shadow Amulet, because this game really is over.
Yeah, this one is basically all but over. There's Analog. Again, he's able to be just as aggressive as he wants. Unfortunately, tosses back a range group. He's going to be glimpsed, but again, this is what I mean when Disruptor's just not too good when you're playing from this far behind. Plenty of damage actually on Analog. There's a full Crimson Guard keeping him alive, however, and the mech heal, so almost fully healed. And they're going to be able to just escort him off of the high ground.
And look at this ugly effect on Mirana ulti. Again. Yeah, Tiny, you know, he has ability, 3 throw, kind of try to throw the game going inside the tier 4 towers, but they're too farmed at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of the a specialty. We saw that yesterday as well for Thunder Predator. I want to say they kind of know how far they can afford to dive in each game, how many tier 4 tower shots they can take before they seriously end up throwing the game. But yeah, again, they're just too far up at this stage. 18-2. I don't think we're going to be able to get any magic numbers here, unfortunately. That Twitch chat always looks forward to.
We could. I'd be down, you know. We could still get like 14 kills on side of NoPing without anyone dying. I can see that happening.
I could see that. I could see that as well, especially with Aegis, right? I mean, and the Wisp to keep everyone alive. Even this Crimson Guard.
Crimson Guard,
carrying this.
They're going to heal them. Phantom Assassin will not deal any damage. Same goes for Razor. Like, this is a really good pickup for Sanking. The item got buffed. Still very costly item, but can work in certain situations. Analog trying to throw.
Nope. Can't find him. Glimpse back yet again. This time, though, oh, they're immediately able to jump onto the Pangolier. Nice jump from Monster. That'll nuke down the Pango, already an endangered species, now extinct. How many deaths he's been taking this game? 0, 4, and 0. Oof, really tough game to be a Pango.
Really is. I mean, he needed to be a bit more active early on, I would say. Rolling Thunder just doesn't do that much, especially when Wisp picked up, what, like 9-10 minute mech.
Yeah, they just heal through it. And Luna, you know, really just unmitigated pushing in your base. At least it's not Shadow Demon Luna of the TI6 era, but it's still pretty darn fast.
Gotta stay positive. No Shadow Demon Luna. Yep. No one has Deso on the team, so the buildings will not die as fast as we expect them. But once that tier 3 tower falls, the bouncy starts between the barracks and the other buildings. How creative are we? Like, this is called barracks, this is called a tower, and then you have building. I mean, we could have called it something.
Well, it's better than when they were called shrines, you know? Let's not encourage Valve to bring all of the base shrines back, because that was...
I actually don't know how it was that possible to have 5 shrines in the... Like, it was impossible to siege the high ground. This was one of the dumbest things we had in Dota 2. Period. Like Dota 1 and Dota 2. Because I remember, you know, I'm old school. I remember a lot of the stuff from Dota 1 days. I don't think anyone had so much impact on the game.
All right, well, here it goes. Last fight breaking out. They at least missed the Burrow Strike. Decent control now onto the Luna. RDO pops the BKB. They forced away the Wisp, but he's going to be running right back on in. They actually get RDO down, and they defend the last barrack standing. Analog's just going to try and TP his way out of this one, but they do have a glimpse ready for him.
But the big
Strike from behind. Catches 3, 4, dying almost immediately. Oh, and GG is called there. Mr. Jeans will throw in the towel. It was... you know, one last team fight for the boys, as they call it, Lacoste. They at least take down RDO once, and they call the game.
Yeah, that's what they came, you know, in the last fight for. They wanted to get 1 kill, manage to kill RDO, but pretty much, you know, a stomp, 25-3 in the end. NoPing in terms of picking, in terms of like lane, in terms of like the way they move around the map, the objective taking, they're really on point.
Yeah, it all looked super clean for them, basically from the laning stage. You know, we focused a lot on that top lane, talking about how Hokori could have done just a couple things different, particularly blocking that camp. I want to say would have slowed down the Sand Kings game and maybe enabled
Yes.
PA to get a couple of items or two. But, you know, it's hard to really kind of talk more in depth about, you know, the mid game when we really only
There
had
was
about
no
7
mid
minutes of
game.
mid-game. Yeah. Okay, and I think, however, luckily, Lacoste, for us, it's not going to be our job to try and break down the mid-game because we have a lovely panel hosted by Avo who's going to try and break down this game a little bit more. Over to you guys, Avo.
Good luck, guys.
Sorry, I'm a liar. We're going to be throwing to a break instead. Sorry to debate you, chat. We are going to be going to a break, and then when we come back, we're going to have Avo and the panel try and break down the game number 1 just a little bit more. We'll catch you guys then.